Hey teams, Lauren here with Bizrok. In today's video, we're going to actually combine two different principles of influence. And those principles are the idea of liking, which is really likability and building that rapport and connection and, well, likability with your patients. And then the other concept that we're going to talk about, or excuse me, the other principle that we'll cover today is the principle of consensus, also known as consistency. So we're going to kind of dive into both of those one-on-one. Let's start with liking, shall we? So when it comes to likability, you want to find different and unique ways to build connection, rapport, relationships with your patients. Guys, this is the most basic form of humanity. People do business with people they like. So at the end of the day, when your patient leaves you, you got to ask yourself, did I have a likable experience with that patient? Do they like me? You can find different and unique ways of asking this. Most of us ask patients the exact same question every single time they come in. Doesn't matter if it's a recall patient that we've been seeing for decades or it's a brand new patient. We ask most of our patients that one question, which is, how are you? Guys, let me ask you this. Does that question, the question of how are you, do you think that truly builds likability? Well, let's dissect it, shall we? So when it comes to asking new patients, how are you? I avoid this question like the plague because the reality is, look at it from a statistical standpoint. If you ask somebody how they are, there's a 50-50 chance that it was a negative experience and they are not doing great, or maybe they spilled their coffee before they got to the office, they were running late, they got into an argument with their spouse, somebody cut them off in traffic. It could be 100 different things. But there's a 50-50 chance that they're going to share something negative with you about the start of their day or how they are doing and feeling. And everything in the dental office is very intentional, guys. We want our patients to walk away and feel like they are taken care of, and most importantly, feel like they've had a positive experience. And so you want to start it out on a positive note. And how do you do that? You avoid asking questions that you may or may not already know the answer to, like, how are you? So you might be thinking, okay, if I'm not going to ask somebody how they are, what do I ask them? Well, I love this method. I learned it years ago. It's an acronym. It's called F.O.R, and now that's spelled F-O-R. F.O.R. F-O.R. It stands for family, occupation, and recreation. These tend to be safe questions that you can ask your patients. So if you're meeting somebody new for the first time, or maybe it's a recall, you can ask about their family. Tell me about yourself. Like, do you have family in the area? And I heard that you have a little guy coming to see us in a couple of weeks. Is that your only one, or do you have other children? Just something to get the conversation started about their family. When we look at the letter O, O is for occupation. That's the simple one, guys. You have a new patient who comes in to see you, ask them what they do for a living, get to know them. And then finally, R, recreation, that's the catch-all question, right? You might say, have you had any fun plans from this past weekend? Do you have any fun holiday plans coming up? Did you watch the game on Saturday? It could be anything that's recreational related. You might ask them about sports or hobbies or anything that tends to be safe. The other great one to ask is about food, like, what's your favorite restaurant in town? Again, that's recreational type activities, fun things that they might do in your area. So that allows you to really connect with that patient, get to know them specifically about their family, what they do for a living, or something that they enjoy doing outside of coming to the dental office, right? So you want to find different ways to ask your patients and build that connection and rapport with them instantly. So I'm going to challenge you. It's a really tough challenge, and anytime I challenge team members to this, they're like, oh, one of the hardest things for me to change in my verbiage or conversating with patients is avoiding the question of how are you? But here's what's important, guys. It's important that you're trying and that you're intentional with the questions that you're asking your patients. Avoid asking, how are you? Change it up. And if you ask a patient how they are and you're like, oh, I didn't mean to ask them that. Guys, give yourself some grace. That's okay. What's important is that you caught it. And because you caught it, maybe the next time you speak to a patient or the next patient you have later in the day, you don't ask them, how are you? Maybe you're intentional and ask them about their family or what they do for a living. And so it's starting to get you into a habit of asking more valuable questions to build that likability with your patients. Now, the second principle of influence that we're going to talk about in this video is consistency. So consistency, also known as consensus, it tends to be the one that's kind of forgotten about, but the reality is it's so important. This is really important whenever we talk about providing exceptional experiences for our patients. So that just means that a patient wants to come in and have the exact same experience no matter who they are seeing. Now, hear me out on this. I never want you guys to sound like a corporation, but one thing that a lot of great businesses do is they know the importance of providing a consistent experience to their clients, their customers, or their patients. And so this is something that can separate yourself from maybe that corporation down the street. So provide a consistent experience. When the patient comes in, do we all stand up to greet the patient? So whether I'm checking the patient in or Susie's checking the patient in, whoever is at that check-in desk, do we always stand to greet our patients? Do we always greet them by name? The handoff from the front to the back, do we build up who the patient's going to see that day? What's the handoff from me, the clinician, whether I'm the hygienist or dental assistant, to the doctor? Is the process consistent when the doctors hand the patients back to the hygienist or the assistant? What's the process whenever they're taken to the front? You know, oftentimes consistency kind of falls through the cracks when it comes to the checkout process, because I'll have team members say, well, Lauren, if a patient doesn't have a bill, like we know that they don't have to owe anything out of pocket that day, we just allow them to walk out. Well, sometimes that's good, sometimes that's not, and here's why. If you're really trying to provide a consistent experience, I would always release them to a checkout team member. That way the patient is always in the habit of stopping by the checkout desk before they're ever released. You know, even though you're like, well, they don't have a bill today, that's okay. Again, it just trains the patient to always stop by the desk before they walk out of the office. Think about, have you ever had a patient walk out and not pay a bill, but to be fair to them, never hand it off correctly to the checkout person? That's why. So you want to create that consistent experience. You want to provide that consistent process in your office, and you want to make sure that the patient, no matter who they see, they're like, it's not just about the person they see. They say, I love this office. I love this practice. Everybody treats me like I'm the most important patient of the day. So guys, if you focus on likability, building that connection and rapport with your patients, and the entire team, the entire organization is really focused on a consistent experience for your patients, guys, there's nothing that you can't do. You will have more patients than you know what to do with. You've probably heard me say it before, but at least 65% plus of all your new patients should come from internal referrals. Well, the best way to get more patients sending you other patients is to do these small things that not every practice is willing to do. And I can bet that a lot of the corporations aren't willing to do it, guys. So get out there, like find likability, build that likability with your patients, get to know them on a deeper level, provide a consistent experience, but most importantly, do what others are not willing to do, because that is how you will have more patients than you know what to do with, and those patients coming back because of the exceptional experience you provide. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this video today. Reach out to us if you need any help or guidance. Otherwise, we can't wait to see and serve you soon.